Welcome to Live Your Life Out Loud podcast. I am your host, Stefanie Thayer. This is a place for tired and overwhelmed women to gather together. Whether you are seeking or already following God, I aim to bring hope, fulfillment, and purpose to your life. So let's dig in. Hey. We are going to talk about split families, blended families, stepping, all the things today. So, I am a wife and a mother of 5 children. But here's the good news. I only had to birth 2 to get the 5. So I consider that a win. I actually have 3 stepchildren. I call them my bonus children because I don't like the term step. It sounds like it's an offshoot or they're not as worthy. And actually, I usually just call them my sons and daughters, but we have an age gap. My husband is older than me. And so sometimes I have to explain it. And if I do, I will say my bonus daughter, my bonus son. Also, we'll get into this, but I am not their mom. I'm not trying to replace their mom. And so I want to be very respectful that I don't want them calling me mom, right? Because that would be taking her name. And I don't think that that is appropriate. Now, we all have our own dynamics. And if you are part of a split or a blended family, you have to make that decision of what is and isn't appropriate to be calling, because there are situations where a parent is absent. And if the child wants to be calling you mom or dad, and that's something that has been earned, then I think that is a wonderful thing, right? So I am doing some data research real quick on split families. So I met my husband and his children were 12, 9, and 5. And I'm just thinking, because the first time I met the 5-year-old, he was so cute. We met at In-N-Out, and he has beautiful curly hair. He's this Italian boy, and he opened the door for me. It was just the cutest little thing. And I don't think he knew that his dad and I were dating yet, but he was just so precious. And of course, all he got was French fries and a shake. And he would get the little, I don't know if you've been to In-N-Out, but they have the little sticker things. And he was meticulously making sure they were all organized. And he's just precious. So it was very sweet to meet him. But I am going to go over some just some kind of tips for you. This is what we did that worked well. Also, there's lots of things we did that didn't work well. But when my husband and I started dating, I did not meet his children for quite some time. And actually, we had very serious talks, because when someone already has a family and children, you need to have a different conversation, right? I do not believe you should be introducing your children to people you are dating unless you are serious. Your children get attached. They get confused. It's also very hard for them that you're dating, that their parents are not together. Almost all children want their parents together. That's just natural. Also, remember that the children in this situation did not choose this. They did not choose for their parents to separate. They didn't choose who their parents are. So literally, these precious kids are being drug around from place to place. I know as an adult, you may feel like you're doing the best. You may be in a situation that you do not want to be in. I respect all of that. That's not what I'm saying. But the children are innocent in this. And yes, even as they become teenagers, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So when I actually met my husband's children, sorry, I took a sip of coffee. I love my coffee. They knew that we were dating and they knew that we were serious. And I was very respectful because there was split time. I did not take any of the dad time. That's for the children. So when there were group events and things like that, I would come hang out. But if it was his evening and he was with the kids, he was with the kids. So slowly over time, I started spending more with them, and they would ask for me to hang out and that kind of thing. I will say that being a step parent is very conditional. And here's what I mean by that. The kids want you to love them. even if they're showing it or rebelling it. And I love my bonus children. They're amazing. But they may or may not love you at any given moment. And here's what I mean about that. It's conditional because really they love their mom, as they should. And so they feel really conflicted to love me. Because if they love me, does that show that they don't love their mom? Because they definitely love their mom and they should. Can they love both? Is that okay? And you know what the answers are to that? It all depends on the adults. It's all about how the adult's behavior is. And you cannot control an ex or an ex's spouse, right? So it really depends on your dynamics, and your dynamics probably change over time. We had periods where it was horrible and it was very hard to get along, and we've had periods where it's easy. Today it's very easy. But when you have emotion and all of this connected, a divorce is like a death, except it's worse because the person is still there. They don't go away. And if you have children, they're never going to go away because kids need both parents. There's so much data on it, you guys. Stop fighting over your kids. Obviously, if there's abuse, addiction, yes, then you are called to protect your children. But just because you don't like him or the way he handles something or whatever, most of my audience is women, so I'm going to say this. That is their dad. And the statistics on dads, I should look it up. And what happens if dads are absent is horrific. They need their dads. Let's go into data for a second here. Step family statistics. Okay, when is this? I'm trying to find what date it was taken. Okay, so this is from stepfamily.org. Percent of U.S. families are remarried or recoupled. The average marriage in America lasts only 7 years. We should probably get into that another time, how you're picking. 1 out of 2 marriages ends in divorce and 75% remarry. 66% of those living together or remarried break up when children are involved. So two-thirds of kids right now, you guys are experiencing their parents separated. 80% of remarried or recoupled partners with children both have careers, so limited who's home. And I'm telling you, that does make a big difference. It's a huge financial sacrifice to figure out how to have one stay at home. It benefits everybody, you guys. And I really struggled when I decided to stay home. I worked career. I loved it. I'm not saying it's easy on many levels, but it is huge for your family. 50% of 60 million children under the age of 13 are currently living with one biological parent and that parent's current partner. So this is not good data. Only 45% of children do well after divorce. And you guys, a lot of that's based on your behavior. It's based on how you and your ex behave. The focus should be about the children, not on screwing your ex, figuratively, of course, right? 41% are doing poorly, worried, underachieving, or often angry. Okay. I'm going to pull up some statistics on dads in families and what it means. And it's huge, especially for girls. So we co-parented. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was not. One of the things that we did in our house that I think worked out really well is that I did not make household rules for my 3 bonus children. My husband was clear on what those rules were because there were different rules in his home than his ex-wife, right? And I would enforce the rules. He would enforce the rules too. But so if I was home alone, I would enforce what he had told them. So what this meant was that behind closed doors, my husband and I were united. If there was a situation, we would talk about it, we would have a discussion, but it would always come from him. This, I think, really helped the relationship with me and especially the girls that were older because I wasn't making up new rules. It wasn't some new person in the house. It was dad. And so this means that if your partner, the actual biological parent or adoptive parent or whoever, the original parent, the OG, has to be the one making it clear what is a yes and what is a no, and then you enforce that. And I think that will help a whole lot. And I mean, we got into the teenage years and kids are smart. They know which parent to ask. They know how to try to get the things that they want, all that stuff. They're smart. Don't underestimate your kids. So the other thing I want to say about stepping is that in the teen years, depending on how long the children have been in a split house, they recognize the power that they have. And they do, you guys. They have power they should not have because you probably have gone through the court system. They realize that they have a voice in what happens, that they can manipulate both parents. And I don't mean that in a mean way. This situation was created and put upon them. They're smart. And so they will use that to their advantage. And they will go wherever has the least rules in their teen years. They know that the courts will listen to what they have to say, that they can refuse to come to your house, all of these things. And so one of the things I want to encourage you in that season is to remember that they are stuck in the middle. Even your 16-year-old, your 17-year-old, 18, even 20-year-old in a split family, they are wedged. They are not fully independent. They're probably taking money from one of you for school or living expenses or whatever. I promise they will come around. If you remain steadfast, you have an open door, you love them. Yes, absolutely. Discipline if you need to, but that they know that you care about them, they will come back around. I promise you that. And I think that's the most important, that the kids know no matter what, you care and that you will be here for them. Also, do not at all talk about the ex in front of your kids. I cannot tell you how many times I am in places, actually not just exes. If you are married to their parent, like you've never been divorced, and they hear you bad mouthing their parent, it's not good. It's not good. Do not do it. They love both parents. Do not start to wedge them and make them pick. It is very hard to mind your P's and Q's when you are in some of these situations, especially if you have an ex that's very contentious. There's not a lot you can do about that ex, but what you can do is your behavior. You should never, ever be bad mouthing them. There may be a day when they're full adults, they're 25, they come to you, they ask some questions. You can be honest, but still be respectful. And I will remind you that divorce takes two people. So generally speaking, no one is innocent. No one is the good guy, the bad guy. It's usually quite layered and complicated. And to the child, they want both of you to be the good guy. They don't want a bad guy. They want to love their parents. Okay. So keep that in mind. Okay. I'll go down the road of money. Ladies, if you are marrying a man who had a family before, do not complain about child support. Do not complain about alimony. That is a beautiful thing. If you are married to a good man, he should want to be providing for his children. Now, the alimony, okay, yeah, there's different terms and dynamics, and eventually it goes away. And I do believe that if you are separated, the adults should become self-sufficient. He had those children. He needs to provide for those children. You knew that going into the situation. That's part of the deal. One of the things that drives me crazy is when people date and they see, oh, I don't like this quality or that quality, and they marry them, and then they expect them to change. You knew what you were getting in the deal. So you got together with someone that already had a family. That's part of the deal. You should never, ever complain about that. We always made sure that all 5 of our kids had the things that they need. That meant there were a lot of things I went without. I've talked about this on other shows that I've been on. I had a salvage title, 2 different color gold minivan that I drove for almost 5 years so that my kids could do their sports and their activities and I could stay home and be present with them. It's a choice. So if you want to drive your fancy SUV or whatever, I don't care. I'm not biased to your SUV. That's fine. But recognize what you're doing and what you're saying. And so there is a financial obligation to the children. There's also an emotional obligation. So if you're dating someone and considering, do I want to do this whole stepping thing? And he's writing a check and he's never hanging out with them, I don't care if he has 20% custody or he has 50% custody. Is he going to their sport game? Is he going out of town? Is he going to open house? Is he If they are not a priority, there is no way you're going to be a priority. And why would you want to be with a person like that? The way that someone treats their children tells you almost everything you need to know about them. Okay? That your spouse should be setting an example. Even if the ex is nasty, I don't care. So let me make that really, really clear. I think there's too many times we get emotional about this and we think, and yes, that meant that there were things from my salary that I was paying for our children. You heard that right, our children. When I decided to get married, they became ours. Yeah, obligation. Fun side note, when we got married, the youngest, he's got his cute curly hair. He came down the banister to our house in his little tuxedo. And when we had the wedding toast, I think she was 13 or 14 at the time, the older, she stood between us during the toast and she was so excited. Let your kids participate. The reality is I didn't want a big wedding. I probably would have eloped. And my husband said, hey, you're going to want the pictures and we need to do this for the kids. And I agree. It was so bonding having the kids completely included, make them feel like they're a piece of the family. Do not marry him if you do not like his children. Do not do it. You're going to hurt everyone. This isn't about you. There are so many other people, more decisions to make here, you guys. I cannot say this enough. I have talked to so many people. And with that, if you are in a situation where you're like, I don't know that I want to be married to my spouse and I'm thinking about divorce, I don't think you have any idea the damage and the ripple effect that is going to happen to your children. Divorce is a nasty, nasty thing, you guys. And like he irritates you because he chooses broccoli funny. Marriage is a commitment. It's not a commodity. I know society tells you that it's a commodity. Marriage is a commitment. Love is an action. Love is not a word. Love is you doing an action every day to show that person you care. So if you are in that situation, I want to challenge you. Decide, no matter what their behavior is, you are going to do an action every single day to show them you love them. What did you used to do? Maybe it's making them coffee, one of my personal love languages. Maybe it's leaving them a note. Maybe it's meeting them for lunch. Maybe it's asking them, hey, I hope you had a great day. Maybe instead of them walking in the door and you rolling your eyes and sighing and walking out of the room, you have the house playing great music and you're like, hey, welcome home. He's not even going to know what to do with you and he's not going to believe you for a while. Do it consistently for 30 days. There is a reason you married and loved that person. And if you are believers, if you are even considering it, pray together. Fight for your marriage. Praying together, if you have not prayed together, is a very foreign, odd feeling thing. The statistics on married couples that get divorced that actually pray together is almost zero. Almost zero, you guys. And it can't hurt to try. It cannot hurt to try. Okay, I'm trying to find the statistics on dads, but I can't find it at this moment. Okay. What else about being a step parent? I will say in some ways it's nice in the teen years. I feel like I got less of the emotional brunt and drama, but then I also didn't get some of the fun things like, shopping for the prom dresses and just raising kids in general is super hard, but it's been such a blessing and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I am so grateful that I have the children that I have. And so my husband and I, we had our first child together about a year after we were married. And it was really interesting because the oldest, so number one, and then number four, who I birthed, they look almost identical, except one's a girl and one's a boy. And so she was 16 and she would carry him around at different sporting events and people thought it was her son, which was hysterical. And it was very bonding. And one of the other things that happened, and I know this isn't everybody's situation, each situation is unique, but my husband's ex-wife started treating me very differently when I had that child. I think she recognized that those were her children's siblings. So I want to take a note from her and honor her there. If you are a split family and the ex has now had another child, that child didn't pick that situation. Welcome that child in. Be sweet and loving. One of the things that my husband's ex would do, her neighborhood, we always lived on property, and her neighborhood was this amazing neighborhood by the elementary and junior high. And so we would go that direction for Halloween. She would always ask that the boys stop by first thing. And so she would give them a little goodie bag, and it had like a light necklace and different things to be safe. And she just loved on them. The two youngest love her. They don't know anything negative about her. We've never spoken a bad word. And you guys, they went to court for 9 years for their divorce. Okay. So there was a lot of yuck. There was a lot of mudslinging, a lot of hurt. My boys love her. And I love her for that. She was always amazing to them. Even today, she is amazing to them, and they're almost adults. So take that as a note. These kids, whether they're the before kids, the together kids, the after kids, they didn't choose, right? Okay, I'm trying to find the data for you on dads. The state that we lived in when my husband went through custody was California, and it's incredibly biased towards moms. It's one of the reasons he fought for so long. It was very, very hard for him to get 50-50 custody. And part of that was that he worked and made a significant income. And so they actually penalized him for that and said that, well, then he couldn't have time with the kids until we got married, because then I was available. And that's not why we got married. We learned that later. But so he fought for that time with his children. And I will encourage you, if money is the issue, make it work. Make the money work. The time with your children, you will never get back. I personally do not encourage you to fight for more than 50-50 custody. I don't. I think it's wrong. I think both parents need to have an influence on their children. Both mom and dad are vital, unless there's addiction or abuse. And that even means in the teen years. We had one that primarily lived with us. We had one that primarily lived with the ex. Open door policy. I'm not mad at you that you're a teenager now and you hate packing your bag every other week. And it was every week. We had different custody agreements over time, and that you just want one primary home. But I can't wait to see you Wednesday night to hang out, and I can't wait to have you over on the weekend, and I'll see you Tuesday at your swim meet. Love them. Would you like to move in and out of a bag every week? No. Be available, right? They did not choose this situation. So I know I've said that and I'll keep saying it, but it's so true. Okay, I got some dad data. I should have pulled this up before we started. Okay, children who feel a closeness to their father are twice as likely as those who do not to enter college or find stable employment after high school. They're 75% less likely to have a teen birth, 80% less likely to spend time in jail, and half as likely to experience multiple depression symptoms. This is all from all4kids.org, by the way. Fathers are critical to child development. High levels of father involvement are correlated with higher levels of sociability, confidence, and self-control in children. 43% more likely to earn A's in school, 33% less likely to repeat a grade than those without engaged dads. Father engagement reduces frequency of behavioral problems in boys, while also decreasing delinquency and economic disadvantage in low-income families. Father engagement reduces psychological problems and rates of depression in young women. So here's a fun story. When my husband and I got together, one of the things that was really important for me in a partner was that they were a believer. But I had written, it's a long story, I'll tell it another time, but I had that I wanted someone who was spiritual. I think there's a lot of believers out there who are not really believers. They call themselves Christian. It's a check mark. They say, I believe in Jesus. Satan believes in Jesus. That's not enough, you guys. So I was looking for someone, I didn't care what religion or church you belong to, but that was actively seeking God, was seeking a relationship, was in scripture, right? So my husband and I, we'd have great talks about it. We were married 4 years before we ever went to a church. We both had been deeply hurt by churches, by the way. And our oldest daughter was a competitive athlete. And so multiple high schools around our area, the best athletes would play this particular sport. And she kept asking us, she wanted to go to this youth group. We said, of course, sure. She kept asking us if she could go to the church. We're like, yeah. And then she said, well, I want you to go to the church. And we both said, no. That neighborhood was about 10 minutes away. It was very affluent. And we purposely did not live in a community like that because we wanted our kids to grow up not caring about your stuff or your labels or whatever. And this church she wanted to go to also was the largest. It was like on top of a hill. And I mean, I grew up kneeling to pray and hymnals and the whole thing. So finally she convinces us to go, and we show up, and it's huge. And there's screens. This is probably 2009. I had never been in a church, you guys, that had like TV screens or even a rock band ever in my life. So we sit near the front. The teenagers all sat in the first few rows, and they would take their shoes off. So we sat behind them, and we knew a lot of these teenagers. They were great. And so the music was kind of wild, and we were like, oh, I don't know about this. And then the pastor got up to speak, and he was actually a professor from Jessup University who went back into pastoring, and he blew us away. He was so phenomenal. Jeff Bigelow, if you want to look him up, fantastic guy. And that was it. We were hooked. And so we started going to church because of our oldest daughter. And you guys, it was so beautiful what ended up happening. Within a year after that, we ended up started going on mission trips. We've been on, I don't know, over 15 at this time. I ended up running all of the outreach for that church. All of these beautiful things happened. And so all 5 of our children started growing up in this environment of serving other people, seeing other people, helping the disadvantaged, using your time and your talents for other people. I will say that for some in a split situation, not dating and not getting married is the answer. And that's okay. And I respect that. I respect you focusing deeply on your children. I will also say that for some, your children really seek a nuclear family. One of our children in particular really, really wanted family and family time. And we were a blessing to that. I will also say that you cannot have enough good people loving children. I can think from my childhood of aunts and uncles I had, some that were actually related, some that were not blood. They were like my parents' best friends, teachers, pastors, counselors at clubs that had a profound impact in my life. So if you are in this split situation, you have the opportunity to have amazing adults loving and pouring into and developing and encouraging these children. So just to summarize, I want to highlight, do not ever talk badly about their parent in front of them, ever, ever. Do not argue about the rules or the discipline in front of them. Take it behind closed doors, talk, have the new rule come from the biological parent. The step is just enforcing it. Love them, love them, love them, love, love. Love goes so far. Open door policy. You are always welcome here. Remember that they come back. They come back around. Always choose time with them over the fight for money. Always, you guys. You will never get that time back. You can always make more money. You will never get that time back. I will repeat that. Time is the most valuable thing that you have, and it's also what they will remember you for, is the time you spent with them. No matter who has the custody, go to their events, go to the things that matter to them. What would you have done if you were still married to that person? You would have gone, you would have shown up, even if they're pissed off at you, which we had. Show up, sit there, smile, love them. Don't be on your phone. Don't be staring at it. Don't have a sourpuss face. You have so much impact. The kids are very perceptive. They are watching you. They will remember. Love them. Love covers a multitude of so many things. Okay, that was a very quick summary on stepping and all the things bonus. I would love for you to share this episode, to like this. That way you will get updates on each new episode that comes out. You are also welcome to find me on social media platforms and YouTube as well. I hope that this has been a blessing to you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
I hope that today's podcast was a blessing to you. We appreciate you over here at Live Your Life Out Loud. If you could go follow us, share this podcast, and give us a review, it would greatly help us get the word out. Have a wonderful week.